Hello everyone and welcome to another video. It has been an incredibly long time since I last uploaded, so I just want to apologize for the sudden, unexpected absence. It was not something that I was planning. Life just got super busy for me to the extent that I just did not have the energy or the motivation to put out new content, and I want to be able to put out quality videos for you guys. So I apologize that I've been gone for so long, but I wanted to make sure that I put something out before the end of the year. So this is, a catch-up video, I guess. I don't really script anything that I say in my voiceover, so this is all very impromptu. So please bear with me because it has been about 2 months since my last video, so I feel really rusty in terms of creating content and editing and doing voiceover stuff. So we're just gonna hope that this is not a train wreck and I'm just gonna say whatever's been on my mind, kind of talk a little bit about what I'm featuring in this video, as well as just things that have been going on in terms of like life updates, because it's been 2 months and I feel like a lot has happened and I just really miss interacting with you guys. So before I begin, I just want to say hello to all of my new subscribers. Thank you for your support and for hitting that subscribe button even though I haven't been posting anything recently. I appreciate you guys and welcome to my channel. I hope that you enjoy your stay here for as long as you would like to be here with me and my art journey. So my name is Sheeny and I am an intern resident physician by day, which is basically, it basically means that I am a doctor still in my training, and during my free time I really enjoy making art. And I had created this YouTube channel because of my passion for art and just wanting to share that with you guys and have you guys join me in my journey. So welcome, thank you again for your support, and also thank you to all of my subscribers who have been with me for some time now. Thank you so much for your patience, especially because I feel like I occasionally go on these random like leaves of absence where I just disappear without any explanation. So thank you again for just continuing to support me and for your patience, and I appreciate you guys as well. So yeah, so I just really miss talking with you guys. I hope that you all have been really well. Definitely feel free to leave some comments below about what you've been up to and just things that have been happening, because I do love interacting with you guys and getting to see what you guys are all up to. So yeah, so moving to, I guess, the content that's featured in this video. So I wanted to do something that was just more easier on my end. So this is just a fine liner process of basically how I do my line art when it comes to traditional art. I am using the Ohuhu fine liner pens that came out, I believe, in November. So they're fairly new, and I had bought them when they had first launched because they had a promo going on where it was $2 off on Amazon, which brought the price down to like $8 for 10 fine liners, which is a really good price. So of course I had to go get them and try them out. For those of you who have been with me for some time, you know that I really enjoy the fine liner line art process when it comes to traditional art. I feel like it's just a very cathartic thing for me to do. It's one of my strongest suits, I think, when it comes to my art style, is my fine liner, or I guess my line art style. And I've mentioned in my previous videos that I'm still kind of on the hunt for like the perfect fine liner. I feel like I haven't found that fine liner yet. I have been using the Uni Pen and the Lay Pen fine liners, which are really great, but I feel like both of them, there's just something about them that I'm like, it's still not like the perfect fine liner. Like there'll be something about them that I wish was better. So I'm always on the hunt for like a new fine liner to try to see if maybe it'll be the one. So when Ohuhu launched these fine liners, of course I had to go try them, especially with the price being very affordable. So yeah, so there's that. That's what I'm using during this video process. I feel like I haven't really used them enough to give a solid review of them, but I guess I could share some of my like initial impressions now that I've used them for like a few drawings. So one of the things that I look for in a fine liner is how well does the nib hold up when it comes to repeated use. Specifically for me, so my line art process is very precise, and I use one of the smallest nib sizes when it comes to doing the fine liner process. So I use the 0.05 nib size, And to my knowledge, most companies only go down to 0.05. I believe Le Pen and Copic use the 0.03 nib as well, but in the past I found that there's really not a lot of difference between 0.03 and the 0.05 nibs, because at that point it's just so small. And one of the, I guess, cons of using such a small nib size is that the nib itself is very small, so it's very easy to kind of whittle down. So one of my criteria when it comes to looking for a good fine liner is how long can I use the 0.05 nib before it kind of loses its point and becomes really dull, or just like whittles down to the extent that I can't even like draw ink from it anymore. So far with the Ohuhu Fineliner, I think I've used the 0.05 for 2 pieces, and I want to say it's already starting to whittle down, so it's not the most impressive thing. But again, like, we'll see how things go. I still haven't used it enough to really see like how long it's gonna last. And I think the other thing that I've noticed is the ink. So when it comes to fine liners, I really like really dark, like black inks. And you would think that all fine liners use the same like tone of ink and they would all be like very dark black, but that is actually not the case. So that is another thing that I consider when I'm looking at fine liners, is how dark is the ink. And I think that's why I've also been sticking to Le Pen and Unipin, because both of those have really dark inks. And with the Ohuhu Fineliner pens, I've noticed that the smaller nib sizes tend to lay down pretty decently dark ink, but then when it comes to the larger sizes like the brush pen, and I think it's the 0.08 size, or whichever is the biggest nib size that they have in their 10 pack, I've realized that the ink is not as dark anymore, and I'm not sure why. Like, maybe it's just because it's not as concentrated, or like I'm spreading the ink over a larger surface area. I'm not sure, but I've realized that the ink is not as dark the larger the nib size you go. But I also don't know if that's because of the paper that I'm using, because I've only been trying them out on my Moleskine sketchbook, which is the sketchbook that I'm showing in this video, and the pages are kind of like cream colored, so I don't know if that's affecting like the vibrancy as opposed to like if I were to draw this on white paper. So I guess that's something that I'll have to try out as well. But those are kind of my initial impressions with the Ohuhu Fineliner pens. If any of you guys happen to be considering them at all, I would say they're not like the worst fineliner pen I've tried, but they're also not like the best. Like, they're kind of just neutral for me right now, and there's really not anything about it at this time that kind of sticks out to me as like, wow, like these are really good, like blows all of the other fineliner pens out of the water. They feel very standard to me. So yeah, so that's kind of like my first impressions about them. And I guess, let's see, other things to talk about. So in this video, I'm featuring my original character, Denzel. He's a siren. I featured him multiple times in my previous videos because I feel like he's one of my easier characters to draw, and you guys seem to really like him. So it's like a win-win situation, I guess, as I'm trying to get used to drawing again. So yeah, so I'm drawing him and just doing a fairly simple drawing. It's not the most elaborate. Again, it's just something that I wanted to put out for you guys before the end of the year, but also like I'm just very rusty, so I didn't want to do anything elaborate. So hopefully you guys still enjoy the process regardless. I tried to do most of it in real time just so you could see how my fineliner process works, but of course there are some parts that I do speed up or cut out, either because my hand was covering too much of the screen for you to really see what I was doing, or I just sped up the more like simpler, monotonous parts just to cut this video down, because I believe when I filmed it, it was like an hour's worth of filming. And I know that for some of you guys, you enjoy the longer videos, that way you're able to kind of draw along with me. But I know that like with just all of the stuff that's been going on, I wanted to put out a more like polished video just for the end of the year. But definitely let me know down below in the comments if you guys want to see more like real-time, like longer videos, and I'll be sure to do more of those as well. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I could think of in terms of like the art part of this video. So I guess we'll just transition over to kind of where I've been and just give you guys some life updates. So as I had mentioned, I think in my previous videos, I had switched over to the adult hospital back in mid-October. So for those of you who are relatively new to this channel, as I mentioned earlier in this video, I'm an intern resident physician. So basically that just means that I graduated from medical school this past spring, and now I'm moving on to like the next part of my training where I'm actually at the hospital and doing a lot more hands-on like patient care in the specialty that I wish to pursue as like my career. So I am a resident in both a combined internal medicine and pediatrics residency program. So that's basically every 4 months, I switch between pediatric training and adult medicine training. So when I started back in July, I was at the Children's Hospital, and I was basically just doing all my training with the pediatric population. And then 4 months later, which brought us to around October, then I switched over to the adult hospital. So that's where I've been, and it's just been eating up so much of my time, and it's kept me so busy, especially because the curriculum is very different on the Children's Hospital side versus the adult hospital. And one of the things is that with the pediatric program, when you're doing inpatient services, you're on a 12-2 schedule, which means you work 12 days and then you get 2 days off, and then you work another 12 days, you get 2 days off. And while it's super brutal to be working 12 days straight, I actually really like that you get 2 days off, because I would usually spend like that first day just catching up on like chores around the house, doing grocery shopping, doing errands, and all of that. And then on my second day, I would get to relax. But on the adult side, they do a 6-1 schedule when you're inpatient, which means you work 6 days and they get 1 day off, and you work 6 days, you get 1 day off, and so forth. And while it's great that you're only working 6 days, I feel like you don't really get to rest as well when you only get 1 day off, because you spend that 1 day like doing your errands, your chores, and all of that, and then you're back to work the following day. And I feel like that played a huge role in my inability to keep up with doing videos, because I would kind of spend that day doing chores and everything, and then I would just be so tired and just not like in the mood, or just I don't have the energy to put together a video. And I would rather just spend that time either like watching YouTube videos or playing on my Nintendo Switch, or just drawing without the stress of trying to film everything. So that's kind of why I've kind of fallen off the face of the earth when it comes to making video content, just because I just don't have the time where I'm like, yes, I'm in the mood to create content and I want to put something out for you guys. Like, I've just been so tired, especially because I work like 70 to 80 hours a week, and it's a lot, and it's very draining, especially in a time where we've got a pandemic going on. Granted, I'm not directly involved in patient care for COVID positive patients, but there are a lot of changes going on to accommodate for just the increased number of patients that are at the hospital because of all of the COVID numbers, and it's just mentally taxing with all the adjustments that are needed for our training, just to be like, hey, there's just a lot of patients and we need to start redistributing the way that we take care of patients and just the teams and the number of patients that each team is allowed to carry. So there's that. That's basically why I've just been really MIA. But now that I have 4 days of holiday break, I figure this is a really good time to kind of play catch up and put together a video for you guys, especially with the end of the year coming up. I didn't want to leave it with just me like doing my sketchbook tour and then just disappearing until next year. So hopefully this is enough to kind of tie you guys over for the time being. I'm gonna try really hard to continue to put out content, but again, being on the adult side is very draining, and I'm inpatient for all 4 months that I'm here at the adult hospital, so I don't anticipate a lot of free time. But again, I'm gonna try. It's definitely something that I do keep in mind. Like, when I come home at the end of the day, it's like, okay, do I have the energy to put out a video? Like, it's something that I think about actively, and a lot of times it's just I'm too fatigued to put anything out that I think you guys would enjoy. Like, I don't want to put out content for the sake of putting out content and just to get my video count up. Like, when I put out content, I want it to be something that I enjoy doing, and also something that I think you guys would enjoy watching. So there's that. Other things, I did get the COVID swab. So a few weeks ago, I had seen a patient in clinic, and it was for a completely unrelated visit, but then she tested positive a few days later. And granted, she had no symptoms when I had seen her, but shortly after that, like after finding out that she was positive, I don't know if it's just like a placebo effect or anything, but there was one day where like I just had this severe like throbbing headache when I was at work, and I was feeling like these intermittent waves of just like nausea and like wanting to pass out, and like intermittently getting like short of breath just by like sitting in front of my computer and like typing out patient notes. And I was just like, okay, this is like really weird, like what is going on? So when I contacted employee health, they were like, yeah, granted, like that patient tested positive, but like during your interaction, like she didn't have symptoms. It'd probably be best that you just get tested. So I ended up having to get the COVID swab, and I feel like I was so scared to get it because of all the horror stories that I was hearing from other people who had gotten it. Like people were joking that it's like a lobotomy because of how long the swab stick is when it goes through your nose. And so I was like terrified to get this. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna stick that up my nose. But surprisingly, it was not as bad as I thought it would be. With my experience, and again, this is my experience, it doesn't necessarily mean this is what everyone's going to experience, but for me, it was mostly just like this like stinging, burning sensation that I felt at the back of my nose. And with the swab stick, they basically have to turn it every few seconds for a total of 15 seconds in order to get a good collection. And yeah, it was really uncomfortable, and that stinging, burning sensation was not the best thing, but it wasn't so bad that I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get that thing again. But also, like, I did get swabbed for swine flu when I was younger, so I don't know if, like, that kind of made it more bearable for me because the swine flu swab is very similar. So yeah, so that was kind of my experience. Thankfully, I came back negative, so maybe it was just like a one-time thing where my body was just being really weird for that one day. But yeah, so I got COVID swab, so I can now say I've had that experience. And then I got the vaccine. So for those of you who've probably heard, the COVID vaccine is rolling out, and some of the first people to get it are those who are working in healthcare. And because I do work at the hospital and I am considered an essential worker, even though I'm not providing direct care, me and my colleagues did get the first dose of the COVID vaccine. So I figured I would just kind of share a little bit about my experience so that you guys have, I guess, some awareness of what I went through with the vaccine in case you have some questions or are hesitant about getting it. So for me with the vaccine, and again, disclaimer for this as well, that this doesn't necessarily mean that this is something that everyone's going to experience. This is just what I had with the vaccine. So I got this vaccine the morning after the end of my night shift. So I've been working the night shift at the VA hospital for the past week and a half. So I got mine at the end of my shift, and when I got the vaccine, I'd say like the first few minutes of it, like my arm was having these like muscle spasms right near where the injection site was, which is unusual. I get the flu vaccine every year. I've been vaccinated with all of my childhood vaccines, and this is something that I never experienced before, was my arm just kind of like having these muscle spasms. They didn't last long, maybe for like a few seconds, but it was enough that it was like, oh, this is not normal. So there was that. And I guess going back to like the actual like injection of the vaccine, like it's the same sensation as if you were to get any other vaccine. Like you feel that pressure and kind of that pain when they're putting in the vaccine, but it wasn't anything like outside of what I've been used to when it comes to getting vaccinated. After that, I would say I did have that arm soreness and pain that's similar to the flu, but I feel like it was a little bit more sore and painful compared to my experience with the flu shot. So the soreness I think was about the same, but I also had like this kind of like sharp pain with my arm that lasted like maybe just for a few hours, like shortly after getting the vaccine, and then it went away. But of course, like I would say if you're planning to get the vaccine, try to get it after work or at a time when you know you could go home and just like relax and just monitor, because like when my arm was just like this sore and everything, I was like, I did not want to use it at all. And I was planning to like vacuum, I was planning to scrub down my bathtub, and I was like, no, I'm not doing any of that because my arm hurts so much. But of course, like by the next day, it was all gone, so it's not bad. I know other people have also mentioned that they have a lot of like fatigue to the extent that they're like falling asleep when they normally wouldn't. And I feel like for me, like I did feel really tired, but I don't know how much of it was the vaccine versus me just coming home from my night shift. It was a really difficult night shift as well. I did not get a lot of sleep since one of my intubated COVID patients actually coded and he passed away. So all of that's just to say, like, yeah, I was really tired after getting the vaccine, but I don't know how much of it was because of the vaccine versus me just not getting a good night's rest. So there was that. So that's kind of been my experience with the vaccine so far. I haven't noticed any other symptoms. At this time, it's been 2 days out since getting the vaccine, and I feel pretty much back to my baseline. So I mean, when the vaccine comes out, like definitely, if you have any questions or hesitancy, please reach out to your healthcare provider, because they can definitely answer all of your questions and give you any information regarding the vaccine that you may have concerns about. So there's that. And I guess going back to really quickly with this video, so I decided to just kind of touch up at the end using the Fine Tech watercolor. So this is the Peggy Dean 2020 limited edition palette. I don't believe these colors are available as individual half pans that you could buy. To my knowledge, they are exclusive to just this limited edition palette that was sold at Blick Art last year. And I am using the Plum Flip color, which is a flip-flop color, which basically means that depending on the angle that you hold the paint or hold the paper, it changes colors. So this is kind of like shimmering between blue and purple, and I decided to just like throw that on. That way it's not just like a black and white like boring piece. I thought adding the color was nice. So there's that, and that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you stayed all the way to the end, because this one was a little bit on the longer side, but I hope that you enjoyed the content. And again, feel free to comment below, let me know how you've been, because it's been so long. And again, welcome to all my new subscribers. I hope you guys enjoyed this first video that I've put out after some time. And with that, I hope that you guys continue to stay safe, stay healthy. I hope your remainder of 2020 is incredible, and regardless of how this year has gone, we're gonna hang in there. We're almost done, and next year is gonna be better. So hang in there, you guys. Love you all, and I will see you guys in the next video.